People who have seen my maxing series will know that one of my least favorite parts of the grind was doing Kalphite Queen to get the head for the Elite Diary. Thankfully, it's a lot easier now that the Kalphite Queen head is a guaranteed drop, but it can still be extremely annoying, so I hope this guide detailing a relatively new and seemingly unknown, I know a lot of people do know about it, but it's not really used by a lot of new players I see for some reason. And this method is really helpful for getting your first KQ head and just getting past that really awful grind. I do have to mention though that this method uses the Sanguinesti staff, and it is a very, very key part of this method. So if you don't have that, then I'd recommend just skipping out on this video. So this part of the method is completely optional, but I'd highly recommend doing it to prolong your trips by a lot. And without the Desert Elite Diary done, you want to prolong your trips as long as possible, because you don't have access to the shortcuts that would take you directly from the entrance to the Kalphite Queen layer. Now, my setup here isn't optimal, especially not for all players. It'll take some experimenting to do. This is just what I expect a lot of people to use. Me personally, at 99 prayer with my stats as high as they are, I think I didn't need as many restores as I actually took, and I probably would have gotten away with taking only 1 restore instead of 4 in the looting bag, in addition to the restores that I take in my regular inventory, of course. So that's just something to note. I did not need anywhere close to as many restores, but I did get lucky with the drops from the Kalphite Queen too. So adjust it based on your personal preference. I think that the amount I gave in this video is a decent start, although I do believe I had too many sand fews. I don't think I needed the 3rd sand few all that much. I only needed the one I take with me and 1 from the looting bag, so I definitely did not need a 3rd one. But if your trips are longer, maybe you'll need a 3rd one. It's just kind of hard to tell. Again, adjusted based on your own personal preferences. This is only the amount I recommended. So the method is actually pretty simple. All you have to do is get a looting bag with your bounty hunter points from the bounty hunter store, because they are fairly cheap now that people don't need the rune pouch from the bounty store anymore, and people panic sold emblems and made the price of points fall. So all you have to do is run over the ditch, deposit your supplies into the looting bag, then run it over to this emblem trader over here and skull. From here, you're on a sort of soft time limit. I mean, you technically are on a time limit, but it shouldn't really matter because you have plenty of time to get to where you need to be. You see me take an inventory full of mantas here. What I forgot to mention is that if you're a new player, you won't have the diaries done, and you won't have the making friends of my arm brazier done either. So what you'll need are 2 ropes and a light source in addition to any supplies you're taking on the way there. With your looting bag filled, take 2 ropes. I forgot to show it in my video, unfortunately, so sorry about that. But because you haven't finished the diaries, you'll need 2 ropes in addition to all your other supplies, which will be manta rays, I'd assume, because you're wanting to prolong your trip, so manta rays would obviously be the best choice. Go to a fairy ring of your choice. The Edgeville one is close enough, so you can run to that one if you want, but I had one in my player-owned house, and I felt it was more convenient to go to that one, so I went to my player-owned house first. Take fairy ring code BIQ, head over to the Kalphite layer, and put your rope down by the entrance to go down, and take this long winding path. By the end, you'll be at the Kalphite Queen layer, and don't forget to peek into the layer to make sure you're not crashing anyone, because you can't really afford to deal with competition if you're dropping this many supplies on the ground. You'll need to use a rope by the entrance so you can go down into the layer. From there, it's very simple. Just walk to where the Kalphite Queen is, because that's where you're going to be fighting it, and suicide to the Kalphite Queen there, dropping all your supplies in the process. So, with your supplies dropped on the ground, you're going to want to re-gear. This time, you're going to want to use your real gear to fight Kalphite Queen with. And the setup that I'm taking with me is going to be 1 Sirdaman Godsword. This isn't really necessary, so if you don't have a spec weapon, you don't have to take this. The Imbued Heart, again, not necessary. If you don't have it, you don't have to take it. A Max Cape, which is obviously not necessary. You can just use any other light source for this. And you can have another spot dedicated to like a home teleport or something, so you can get out of the Kalphite layer when you're done with your trip. A rune pouch with the runes for vengeance inside. This is very important, so remember to be on your lunar spellbook. 2 restores, 1 sandfew, and 1 brew that you use when your imbued heart is about to run out, so you don't worry about the stat reduction, because you can just imbue heart right back up right afterwards. Don't forget your 2 ropes either for entering the layer. The rest of the inventory will be mantas. For the gear, the only part that is absolutely important is the Sanguinesti staff. You need the healing of this so much to make this method work. Otherwise, you are probably better off just doing the regular method with a melee and range switch instead. Occult necklace, I wouldn't say it's mandatory, but it's so cheap anyways, and it gives you such a huge bonus. You definitely should own it. Slayer helmet, again, while not mandatory, I'd say it's highly recommended to do this boss on a task, to the point where it's so pointless to do this boss when you're not on a task. So definitely get the Slayer helmet imbued or the Black Mask imbued, and it does have to be imbued, because otherwise it doesn't work with mage. Likewise, the Saradomin mage cape, it's an imbued version, by the way. It doesn't really have to be mandatory, but again, it's just so easy to get anyways. You might as well own it. Blessing for the prayer bonus. Ring of Suffering if you can afford it, because it recoils a lot of damage back. Otherwise, just use the Seer's Ring. Eternal Boots, Tormented Bracelet. Ancestral is again not needed, but it helps a lot. If you can't afford Ancestral, the lowest I'd go is Arms before I'd consider not using this method. Here I'm using an Arcane, but that's just because I loaned an Elysian out to my friend. Elysian is strictly better, and you should use one if you have it. I don't, so I'm using the Arcane. Alternatively, this is going to sound weird, but if you don't have an Arcane, what you could do, if you don't have another mage offhand like a Mage's Book, is like if you're doing Cerberus, for example, you're going to have a Spectral. The Kalphite Queen has an attack that reduces your prayer, so the Spectral actually does have some application in this circumstance. I'm unsure of how good it actually is, because I've never gone below an Arcane, but if you're really strapped for cash and don't want to buy a Mage's Book, then a Spectral is an option too. So same as usual, teleport to your Fairy Ring, go to Fairy Ring BIQ, head over to the Kalphite layer, drop your rope down so you can get down, run the maze, and drop your rope down again when you get to the Kalphite Queen entrance. And here's where I think it's something really important. I didn't do this in the video, but you definitely should, because I forgot to. Use your vengeance early on in the cave, so it'll be back up when you actually fight the Kalphite Queen. Pray melee the entire time, or at least when you're about to get hit by the soldiers or something, so you don't lose your vengeance, because having that double vengeance for the first kill is actually quite important. You can see your supplies that you dropped on your death right here, and you can just keep going there over and over again between kills to refuel your supplies, so you can make your trips longer. Once you see the Kalphite Queen, make sure to use your imbued heart and pray preserve to keep your magic level up, because the Sanguinesti staff does scale with your magic level in terms of its damage, so it's going to be very important to keep your magic levels up. I mentioned this a bit earlier, but only use your Saradomin brews in between kills, and only when your imbued heart is about to come back up. So when you use your brew, you restore back to normal stats, and then you can imbue heart back up to your max mage level, or max possible mage level. When doing the Kalphite Queen, it's important to know that you have to stay in melee range. The reason for this is because its range and mage attacks, when you're not praying against them, have 100% accuracy, but this is not true of its melee attack, which makes praying augury very important to have the additional defense versus its melee attack, and being in melee range to actually make it use its melee attack. Additionally, if you ever get low on the Kalphite Queen, you're going to want to run under it when you heal. This way, you aren't taking hits for free when you're healing up, because you can't attack back, obviously. So it's very important for minimizing the amount of damage you take that you run under the Kalphite Queen whenever you have to heal. Of course, I'm not doing a really good job of it myself, but please try to keep in mind you have vengeance whenever you can to maximize the damage you deal back to the Keiki whenever it does hit you with those 100% accuracy attacks. When healing against Kalphite Queen, I don't think it's a good idea to heal up to full, because the whole point of the Sanguinesti staff is to prolong your trips by minimizing the food you need, and healing up to full really lessens the effect of the Sanguinesti staff's healing. So I personally like to heal around 60 to 70-ish. That way I can survive 2 hits from the Kalphite Queen, because its max hit is 30, and that'll keep me safe for 2 hits at least, and that gives me enough time to DPS it back with my Sanguinesti staff. We don't use a Bandwidth Godsword unlike most Kalphite Queen setups, because for magic accuracy, when we attack an NPC, we roll off of its magic defense and magic level, but never its actual defense level. So there's no reason to reduce the Kalphite Queen's defense if we're maging it. Instead, we take a Sir Ottoman Godsword, so that in between kills, if we're low on health or prayer, then we can use Sir Ottoman Godsword spec to heal off the workers that are all around you. Keep in mind that if you ever get poisoned by any of the Kalphites, that the Sanfew Serum is not only a super restore, but also acts as a form of anti-poison. So if you ever get poisoned, you can use the Sanfew Serum to get rid of the poison effect. And I think that's all for my guide for now. Let me know if I forgot about anything or if you have any questions in the comments. Thank you for watching my guide, and I hope it'll help you get your Kalphite Queen head. Good luck out there, fellas.